Oh my god, I've had like a bittersweet last 3 days, including some high highs and low lows. It wouldn't quite be art house politics associated unless the quality was bad. Hey Bear Punch, we're doing Isabel
I got
next.
spicy fingers.
Okay, make sure
I don't
not
know
to touch your
Isabel.
eyes.
I'm happy to meet you, friend. I always touch my eye. Well, the worst is going to pee at all, or just anything down there. Cause wow, some of the worst pain you've ever expelled or felt, and it feels like it's never gonna end.
Okay, that sounds dramatic. Are you dealing with like ghost peppers or something?
Banana peppers.
Banana peppers? We'll give you the worst groin
Not
pain
banana
you've
peppers,
ever felt.
habanero. I'm a banana pepper. Isabel's a dog.
She's a Pekingese.
What does a Pekingese mean?
It was a dog that was like bred for Chinese emperors. It's like a little fluff ball.
If your whole goal was to take a dog and make it just look like a radically different animal, like how many generations does that take?
I don't know. I watched a video on like the earliest dogs and the dogs in pre-contact Americas. Every species of dog was basically wiped out. Almost all traces of them were. But there were like breeds of dogs in the Americas. A couple of them like have different versions that still exist, like huskies. But almost all their DNA is like completely gone. And
How does DNA?
I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% pit bull. So that's a kind of good joke. Bear Punch says there's also a cool Russian program to domesticate the silver fox from wild. Yeah, I've seen that. I don't.
Oh.
Do you think that's like a good or bad thing?
I mean, what do you
Domesticating
gain out
foxes.
of that? Just a new pet industry?
You say they end up selecting for puppy features. I've heard people say like foxes have like both cat and dog traits, but they've been kind of hard to domesticate. There's like a
Oh, that's
list of
interesting.
criteria you need to be able to domesticate an animal, and I don't know if a fox. I think it has to do with like people like foxes, and that's why they're going for it.
What's the criteria? Like, is it just genetic?
No, it's like behavioral mostly. I think like the animal has to like be cool with humans. Humans have to be cool with animals.
Guns, germs, and steel?
Yeah, exactly. It was like one
The
reason
Jared
Africa
Diamond.
got screwed is because zebras weren't domesticable, but horses were.
I mean, cats and dogs are so boring at this point. We want something new.
I'm sick of these pets. I don't know that domestication itself is bad, but like breeding practices for cats and dogs, especially for like dogs whose bodies get messed up, like chihuahuas and pugs and things that just shouldn't exist.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
a problem.
Well, I think the concept of like the amount of people that have pets in the U.S. needs to just drop significantly.
If I remember correctly, the biggest thing you need is social animals for domestication, which is why dogs work so well, or herd animals. The emphasis on purebred is the most problematic. Yeah, that's where you get problems. Like mutts are healthier. Puppy mills are obviously really bad. Dogs got domesticated before cats, and the reason is like it wasn't even intentional. People and dogs just kind of like found a mutually beneficial relationship hunting together. People didn't plan it, but then because they became cool with each other, then people started to breed for certain traits. And the rest is history. Maybe if we try to breed a dog to be as far from a wolf as possible, we can get a dog who stands on two legs with a giant head, who's mayor of a little city or something. I don't know. I'm a sheep, not a people. You know, there are more sheep than people in New Zealand. Not a lot of people know that. In the past few days, I want to attend This is story time. I'm gonna put it. Story time. Okay, so I went to the Detroit launch for Means TV. The subscription, or the streaming service, is finally up, and you all can subscribe and get all the content for $10 a month. It was an incredible experience overall, and I got to meet a lot of great people who I want to talk about. But that was the good part of the trip. The bad part is I was driving up to Detroit, and my parents are always worrying about the worst case in classic parent fashion. They're like, oh, take a winter coat in case something terrible happens, you're stuck on the side of the road. I'm like, oh my god, I'm a self-sufficient, I'm an adult. But it went as terribly as possible. This car breaks down 10 minutes out of Detroit. I called AAA, my mom has AAA, I'm like, you gotta help me out here, and they say, oh, well, if your mom's not there in person, we can't help you. So I have to add myself to the AAA just to get this towing. So my car goes to the shop. I'm late. I was trying to be hanging out with Means TV at this point. But it doesn't happen. I'm sitting by the side of the road. They're stalling me. They're taking forever. Finally, I get there just in time for the launch. I meet Nick Hayes and Naomi Burton, the founders of Means TV. Take some pictures on the red carpet, which I'm really camera shy, but made me feel like a celebrity. I couldn't believe it. And they put on the show. The main event was a documentary called Gaza Fights for... Wait, I can't talk about this yet. Over the course of the next few days, my car... The news just keeps getting worse and worse. They're saying, oh, we took this part out, but we found this. This is what we think the problem is. Oh, now there's this delay. So I'm staying past where I thought I was going to. Means TV paid for me to stay at the hotel, but I have to stay one more night. And Nick and Naomi let me stay at their house. This car news keeps getting worse. Finally, I'm able to get home. I'm like, I'll get home really late. But then on my way back to my home from Detroit tonight, the car breaks down again for the exact same reason. Auto repair shop got it all wrong, charged a ton of money. I mean, the money could have been worse. But the same thing that happened on my way up. And I'm just going over a bridge and I'm like, okay, the oil pressure gauge is... I've been forgetting to draw. I'm getting worked up. Oil pressure gauge is back where it was. I need to pull over. And the car wouldn't start. I'm so exhausted and I'm stuck again. And this guy pulls up. First, some guy pulls up to help. People always seem to do that. People are pretty nice on the road, at least in the US. Somebody else pulls up and they're like, hey, I'm AAA. So call AAA. Get like your claim in. Sit in my car to warm up. So I called AAA and the guy's like, okay, I snatched up the dispatch. I'm gonna take you. Hold on, I gotta get Jesse back. Car breaks down again for the same thing. I'm in a hotel right now.
What was the thing? Old carburetor?
He is the kindest man I've ever seen, and really a testament to how sacrificial the working class can be. He was like quintessentially Midwestern working class guy driving AAA. He picks me up. He's like, I booked the cheapest hotel I could that was near. He was like, alright, I'm gonna take you to the hotel, no charge. And he's like, if I were running this company, I wouldn't be charging you at all for this. He's like, I don't like seeing cars stopped on the side of the road. I'm like, do you need help getting my car up? Like all this? He's like, you just stay in and be warm. It turns out they're trying to charge me more than they should, so he's calling them and is like, why are you charging this guy more than you should? Like everything, he's just being such a nice guy, like so generous and helpful. And it's like late at night too, and he has this like shitty job. And that I've heard America has really good like short-term empathy. Like you see someone on the side of the road, a lot of people will stop. But the US struggles with like more systematic empathy. A lot of working class people. Not to essentialize, he's just one guy. He's a really nice guy. But like really care about other people. I ended up like tipping him what I would have paid for the Uber to get to the hotel. He's like, no, you're probably gonna need this money. And I was like, no, I got more cash. It was really inspirational and really fitting for like the end of a week talking about like building entertainment for the working class. It was like he kept shit talking to his own company. He's like,
Hey, I mean, so when you're saying you're creating entertainment for the working class,
yeah.
What's the difference between that and like leftist entertainment?
Well, it is leftist entertainment, like in the sense that the leftist message is pro-working class, but one of the top people at Means TV and people who are going to be featured, they'll have a show in March, are Brett Payne and Brian Quimby. They do Street Fight Radio, a really popular podcast, and they're as working class as you can get. They started Street Fight Radio about working class experiences, like they talk to and have a call-in for working class people, and it's like they really understand the economic justice component and they live it out in their real lives, and they take that experience to for like the kind of content they put out on their podcast and on Means TV. I'm more economically privileged. Maybe a lot of filmmakers are from there, but the idea is this is content that like upholds the values of working class people in a way that what you see on Netflix made by big studios and doesn't depict the world as it really is. It's worth it for the first month just for the Gaza Fights for Freedom documentary alone. And if you've been a patron of me up till this point, even at $1, I'm gonna send you some free merch, such as what I'm designing right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Wow.
Buzz has been great. Like, the entire launch was incredible. The Detroit and New York shows were packed. I went to the Detroit one, which is where Nick Hayes and Naomi Burton, the founders, are based out of. They exceeded their goal for subscriptions before the event even happened. Everybody on Twitter is talking about how much content there is and how great the content they've been watching is. And the best content is yet to come. They're about to buy a bunch of new films. They have a bunch coming in the pipeline. I know I sound like such a PR guy right now, but I met Nick and Naomi for the first time. I met Abby Martin and Mike Preisner.
I wanted to say something from my heart about the ongoing political crisis in Ukraine and Russia's military occupation of Crimea. Just because I work here for RT doesn't mean I don't have editorial independence. And I will not sit here and apologize or defend military aggression.
She is such a badass. I told her, I'm so glad you're on my side because if you weren't, I would be scared of you. I feel like she could break my spine, like, through the computer screen. But they both reached out to me beforehand. Mike Preisner is really awesome. You need to check out a video of him.
To all those serving in the Army and the Marines and the Air Force and the Navy, you have the absolute right to refuse to take part in these criminal wars, and that's a right that all of you should exercise. You have no reason to go put your life on the line and kill and die for profit. Our enemies are not in the poorest countries on the planet, but right here in the richest one.
I just can't believe that these shit posts are being posted alongside the work that they do as really serious journalists. Or the feature documentary we watched at the launch was a documentary they just made called Gaza Fights for Freedom. I tweeted about it. I don't want to talk too much about it, but that documentary is like essential viewing. It's hard to get through. I was like a captive audience. I would watch it in multiple sittings otherwise. Those two went to Palestine. They got like attacked by gas. You're gonna see in the documentary all the people that the IDF targets when Palestinians come up for peaceful protest. If you're wearing a press badge or like a press vest, which is a big glaring like killing me is a war crime kind of sign, the IDF will target you. And it also is really informative and gives you the case for all the many ways that what's happening in Palestine constitutes war crimes, in a really undeniable sense. And the injustice that like Israel and the US controlling international government means they're just above the law. and the human cost of it.
Oh, just well said. What you told me off stream about this documentary really makes me want to watch it. And thankful that hopefully it seems, at least in the Democratic Party, that the narrative around Israel is finally starting to shift. And I feel we have Sanders to really thank for that. We needed somebody who had a background of either living in Israel or just being Jewish to give people the okay to criticize racism.
Get prepared for the
have.
Bernie Sanders is a fake self-hating Jew takes. Bear Punch says, I was already sold on Means TV before, but this documentary sounds fantastic. That kind of comment is like crack to me. Thank you. One benefit of my car breaking down is I got to hang out for a couple days in Detroit. I hung out with Abby Martin and Mike Preisner, Naomi Burton, and Nick Hayes. After I couldn't stay at the hotel anymore, they had me stay at their house and I met their cats. It's not just like incredible what those two have been able to make, starting with nothing, getting big with their AOC thing. They're really smart and really hardworking, and they're super nice. They've been so good to me, but they were so hospitable, like helping me when I was stranded there, talking my ass off. I'm just in a hotel now drinking beer that I found on the shelf.
Right now?
Yeah.
So you're not back yet?
No, because I got halfway home and my car broke down.
Oh, University of California, Santa Cruz graduate workers and TAs have been on strike for, almost a month now, I think it is. Basically, they want COLA, which is a cost of living allowance, and basically meaning that, as inflation happens, workers should get paid along with that inflation, which is very fair, and is something that hasn't happened with our minimum wage, which...
it's something that, like, if that doesn't happen in a job in the U.S., if you don't have a COLA, like, they're ripping you off. Or you have, like, a job where it's not expected in the industry, which is BS, because it means that, like, they're paying you less and less as time goes on, functionally.
Right, and so they've been asking for COLA, and I think UC Santa Cruz offered, like, really, like, less than 0.5% increase, like, something that graduate students do basically is a starvation wage for them, since housing is so expensive out there, and they most of their time is taken up by being graduate student instructors. They have spent more on riot police than the cost of the COLA would have been.
Oh my god. That shows you that it's really not about pragmatism, it's about power and control.
Exactly.
Like,
and
because that can seem like a kind of like facile lefty thing to say, and like the world is a little more nuanced than that, but really it's like there's a social function to beating people down when they ask for something.
Oh yeah, and the UC system has a really pretty bad record with police brutality. I think one of the most famous examples is when at UC Davis, when the students were just sitting down on one of the paths.
The pepper spray.
They just that mace right in their faces. But so UCSC just informed all the graduate student instructors that they've been fired from their work, and has threatened them with deportation, saying that you strike because this could threaten your employment, which will threaten your immigration status. A lot of these institutions, I feel like on the right, get seen as these really leftist, communist, institutions, when really a lot of times they're pretty right wing.
Are you talking about university administrations? All of them are evil.
How did corporations get infiltrated into university system?
Well, even public ones are kind of like money-making enterprises. I don't know, that's probably like a really big topic I'm not equipped to talk about. I have friends in their PhD program who are fighting kind of a similar fight to unionize, and then at my sister's university, she's also getting her PhD. I don't know if she was participating, she at least like was posting about it. I think graduate organizing is becoming like a happening thing throughout the country.
I mean, it's ridiculous that graduate students wouldn't have a union.
Bear Punch says, isn't this the sort of business ontology endemic to neoliberalism and capitalist realism? So then you need more profits, which means pay labor less. Yeah, even if you're not even if you're a publicly owned and funded university, like the expansion of the market logic and market model and efficiency, all the foundational premises that go to justify capitalism and private institutions become the way you organize everything in life, even education.
Academics don't get paid at all. In fact, they have to pay for their own work to be published in a lot of the journals that are critical to them getting tenure. The only person paying you is the university system. That means they're subsidizing these journals that just make millions in profits off of unpaid labor. And it's such a corrupt power system.
Yeah. My friend published, he's like studying like plant biology. He just published and his like lab had to pay for half of it.
Why are you paying to get published to make another corporate or another industry money?
Yeah.
I don't know. Would us being in the minority be better for Means TV, or would having things like Medicare for all be mainstreamed, be the right option?
Yeah, there's probably some dialectic where Means TV could benefit, and you can be an accelerationist about it, but usually with these things, I do think that the transition is actually better. I think the more popular social democracy and the kind of more socialist vocabulary is, and like, for people who are like, oh, I'm an anarchist or an ML, and like, Bernie's a sellout, he's a lib, like, there are huge benefits, like a less militarized police, less surveillance, less job lock where people can actually organize because they can move jobs because their health insurance isn't tied to employment. All these little things make more favorable conditions for us to be able to do more radical politics. So I do think the emergent left is good for a more radical left in most ways.
Sanders being the organizer-in-chief, being able to expand union leadership and democratize the DNC by getting rid of superdelegates, putting in more populist leaders. Obviously, one of the biggest issues we have in the US with the labor movement is how things like striking or protesting are so dangerous because of extreme criminalization of protest movements and just people being paycheck to paycheck or risking not being able to get their insulin shots or any really essential medical procedures done if they lose their job.
If people have the rights to get more like leisure time somehow, if people can like afford therapy, like there's no telling how much this is not a pro-incrementalism or like set your sights short argument. This is a thing of like, with dual power, having an ally doing the best he can in the electoral process is still beneficial for a political praxis that looks beyond electoralism. And there's still going to be tensions there, but we're all on the same team as the left. We all want the same things. And we can fight it out when capitalism is over. That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah. You're really trying to rehash the Spanish Civil War right now.
What? You
I
know that
don't
history
remember.
more than me, probably.
No, just talking about when.
Is
when
that
the
like
fascist
anarchist
forces-
versus
Mussolini's-
fascist?
No, it was anarchists versus communists, and how while like the fascists were taking over, the anarchists and communists started fighting each other, which just wiped them out and allowed the fascists to take over super easily.
Yeah, I'm getting sick of leftist infighting over stuff that doesn't matter, or for contradictions that are benign. And by that I mean like
This is
there are contradictions between like authoritarian and libertarian and other like views of what socialism is, but those contradictions don't happen right now. We need to be on the same side against the enemy who exists now. After that is done away with and we're in the synthesis of that conflict.
This is how corporate Democrats feel.
What is?
That these issues are benign and we need to unite.
Yeah, it really is. Like all that like bullshit, like Pete Buttigieg style unity kind of talk that we're so sick of. It's all true. It's just we need to unite as leftists against those very people. Unite the left. That's the message I have right here. Left unity.